Good afternoon, everyone. Here to talk about the Florida real estate market, specifically the South Florida real estate market. I do these updates every quarter, at the end of every quarter, once all the data comes in, and that's what I'm here to do with you. So let's start off with exactly what is going on big picture. Buyers, you should be thrilled. You have been waiting for this. You have been hoping to have less people to compete with. You've been sick and tired of multiple offer situations and a complete feeding frenzy for 2 years, and now it's here. So don't miss out. Don't get caught up in the media drama, in the news, and all these other kinds of things that scare people away, and get yourself in on opportunities. Sellers, you have completely ruled the roost at a frenzy level that we haven't seen in at least 15 years, well, 17 years, maybe more. Now, you still have leverage. We're still leaning on the side of a seller's market. It's not quite a buyer's market, but you have to be more reasonable. You can't just name your price. You can't do that. And you could do that for a period of time back in 2021. What we're seeing is a lot of buyers who are thinking that, or I should say sellers who are thinking it's 2021 and buyers that are thinking it's 2008. Folks, it's neither. It's the fall of 2022. The market is adjusting downward. It's slowing down a bit. The amount of home sales is slowing down. The market's finding its equilibrium. This will go on for another year or two, and then we'll go on another 8 to 10 year run. This is how things go. But in classic Florida fashion, the highs are always higher and the lows are always a bit lower. And that's part of what we are starting to see. But I will tell you, Florida is holding up particularly well. We also keep our eyes on Texas. Texas and Florida have a lot of similarities. A lot of people moving in and relocating there since COVID. Texas is slowing down at a much faster pace because they have a tremendous amount of new construction. Florida doesn't have as much, or I should say South Florida in particular doesn't have as much as a place like Austin, Texas, where they just have droves of land, right? So the slowdown in South Florida has come, just like it has everywhere else in the country, but it was delayed. It took more time. I was there doing a realtor training in May, telling realtors it is going to slow down. It has slowed down in Massachusetts. It has slowed down in New Hampshire. It slowed down in the Northeast. And they were kind of looking at me like, what's he talking about? It hasn't slowed down here. That's because South Florida is more resilient to change because of all the people moving in, because of all the folks relocating down south. You all should be happy about that and be aware of that. And buyers, don't overplay your hand and think this is some 2008 scenario where prices are just going to fall apart and everything's going to go bad and you know you shouldn't buy, you should totally wait. You will regret that. Back in June, when rates went up substantially in the first 2 weeks of June, I did an update and I said rates are going to go up more. And many, many buyers stomped their feet and said, I'm not paying that rate. I'm going to wait till they come back down. And I kept saying, they're not going to come back down. And for like 2.5 weeks in August, I was slightly wrong temporarily because they settled a little bit, like a quarter point or a half point. And guess what happened since then? They went back up higher. We are totally at a 7% interest rate now. And I will tell you all right here, right now, I expect us to be at interest rates of 8% or more by February. Remember I said that? Mark your calendar. On Halloween, I'm telling you that. Okay, so be aware of that fact so that you can think about that in your buying process. Okay, a couple different things I want to do now. I'm going to jump in and show you some statistics, show you what's going on in the market, show you our weekly tracker so that you can see what's going on, our monthly tracker, I should say. Then I'm going to show you our September housing report. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about why some of this is happening, market-wide, countrywide, but also why with certain segments in Florida, the hit could feel a little bit harder because of some lending guidelines and things that changed back in the beginning of the year. So if you are a buyer, a seller, or a realtor in really anywhere in Florida, particularly South Florida, where we serve with our own realtors with their boots on the ground, you really need to stay tuned into this for another 20 minutes because I'm really going to go over a whole bunch of things that are important to you, that should be important to you. So let me pull this up on the screen and show you our Florida real estate updates page. If you type in FL realestateupdates.com, you will come across this beautiful page that our marketing team puts together for all of the states that we're in. And you can see that we are tracking the amount of homes listed on a monthly basis. Now look what has happened here. The red line is 2022. The amount of homes listed in September was 9,100 homes. It hasn't been that low in September going back 4 years. That's the lowest it's been. It has been that low in December, which is expected. But this trajectory tells me that we are going lower. Why? Because we're seeing a lot of sellers all over the country that are saying, I don't want to list my home and lose my low interest rate. We have a country now that a country full of homeowners that are addicted to low interest rates, that are addicted to interest rates that really weren't realistic. I've joked and said how it couldn't be Black Friday for interest rates forever. Just couldn't. Now they're going back up, and that is why we're seeing a lack of homes listed. I do expect this to last for some time, at least 6 more months. That is what will keep inventory in line, and that is what will stop prices from falling out. So let me show you what I'm talking about with inventory. Look very closely at this graph here. There's a line graph. Notice the bars every month. The vertical columns represent each month. Right now we have 24,000 homes for sale in all of South Florida. This is Palm, Broward, Miami-Dade counties, okay? You look at all three, 24,000 homes for sale. Look at last year at this time, 21. So we're above last year at this time, but we're nowhere near historical norms. You look back to 2020, 2019 in green, and we're not even up anywhere near that level. So when people tell me, oh, prices are going to just totally fall out. Okay, well, I don't know what's going to happen 2 years from now, but it's impossible for prices to fall out in the next 6 to 12 months when you see this few homes for sale. Okay, it's not possible. And when you look at real estate downturns or real estate slowdowns, they usually last a year or two and they adjust back. 08 was an anomaly where it lasted a few years. I don't really think that's going to happen. Now take a look at pendings, meaning contracts accepted. These are down to 68.48. Well, is anyone surprised? We have less homes to sell, so there's less going under contract. Interest rates are up, demand is down, but in addition to demand being down, folks, we also are in a situation where there's a lack of sellers, hence what keeps inventory in line. I know I already mentioned that. Homes sold, down. But remember what I said. There is a difference between homes sold and the amount of homes sold and prices. Don't mistake that when you hear it in the media. The media loves saying, home sales down 20%, home sales down 30%. Okay, that's the amount of sales. Last year was a peak year. We had more sales than ever. Okay, look at the turquoise line represents 2021. Look at the amount of sales. Massive peak, massive. We can't match that. If it was a peak year every year, there wouldn't be a peak, okay? Now let's look at prices. This is interesting. Average prices, South Florida single families, 819,000. Back in June, it was $1 million. Oh my God, Anthony just said prices wouldn't go down 20%, but look, they've gone down 20% already. Wrong. Absolutely, positively wrong. Here's what's going on, folks. There are less luxury sales. This is the average. We've been tracking averages for 11 years. If we switch to median or, we're kind of screwing up our data, there are less luxury sales. That doesn't mean that the average home that was worth $1 million in June is now worth $800,000. That is absolutely not correct. Don't be fooled by that data. And notice what happens here. Look at the turquoise line for 2021. There's a little bit of a dip in the fall months. Okay, this year it is slightly worse, I think, a bit more pronounced because of rates going up. Understandable. Now, to be clear, do I think that prices have settled a little bit? Yes. Do I think they're going to settle a little bit more? Yes. But folks, they went up 50, 60%, 70% since the beginning of COVID. Look at these lines here. Look at the orange line that represents 2020. In October, or call it September of 2020, the average sale price in South Florida single family was $650. Now it's $819. Okay? Think of how much of appreciation we've seen. In June, it was $1 million, but that's because of the sales that went under contract when rates were lower. Okay? There's a delayed impact. That's why this is happening. So have prices settled a bit? Yes, but this overstates it. But I still show it to you because we don't fool with the data. We show what's happening. We don't try to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. We want you to know what's going on. And when you work with the realtors at Lamacchia Realty to do a fantastic job in South Florida, they treat you the same way. We want to make sure you know the data and you're aware of what's going on. Take a look at this. This is interesting. South Florida average prices for condos and townhomes. Same thing going on here, folks. Back in the spring when the extreme frenzy was going on, rates were still low. Yes, prices did get pumped up into an excess territory. Yes, they've settled down a little bit, but have they gone down 20% since then? Absolutely not. There are just less luxury sales, so that has an impact on the average. But look what happened in September. 470, August was 437. Why did that happen? Why was there 437, 448 August and July? I'll tell you why. Substantially less luxury sales on the heels of the early June interest rate increase. Interest rates went up so much at that time that it knocked a bunch of people out of the market. And when they got knocked out of the market, that decreased the amount of buyers and decreased the amount of luxury sales. That's why that's happened. So to repeat it one more time. Okay, one more time. We'll bring the camera straight back to me so you can see me head on, and I'll look you right in the eyes and tell you. Have prices started to settle a little bit? Yes, we're seeing that across the country. But don't be fooled by those numbers into thinking they've settled that much. We've seen some settling across the country. We're seeing it in South Florida. And I think we're going to see it a bit more before the market finds its equilibrium and takes back off again for another 8 or 10 year run. That's what we're experiencing here. Not the end of the world. It's all normal. Markets do this, okay? Don't be scared. Now, I'm going to jump in and show you our September housing report that goes over county by county so you can see what's going on in South Florida. September South Florida housing report. These can be found on lamacchiarealty.com, and our realtors have these readily at their fingertips to send these to you. Remember, this is the whole county. Real estate is hyper-local. So if you're looking in a specific area, you're starting to get serious about looking, you've got to get yourself in touch with a Lamacchia Realty realtor in South Florida. If you're watching from up here in New England, let us know. Our relocation department will get you connected with the correct realtor to make sure you receive VIP treatment. All right, let's move on. Broward County, month of September. Look at this, closed sales down 30%. I have news for you all. I expect it to be that much or more in October. More. I wouldn't be surprised because rates went up so much in September. This is just the period that we're in. Average sale price up 9% though over last September. Think about that. So you just saw a graph that showed you monthly that made it look like things have fallen since the summer. But when you look at September to September, prices are up 9%. New listed for sale down 9%. Sales pending down 30. That's exactly why I just said to you, I expect October home sales to be down even more. This is how it goes. When you have a peak, you have to come down off the peak. You can't stay at a peak or there wouldn't be a peak. Make sense? All right. Let me keep going here. That's Broward County, single families. Then you look at condos, closed sales down 20%, average price up 27%. Average price of a condo or townhome in South Florida is up 27% this past September over last September. Think about that one, folks. Think about that. New homes listed, new condos listed down. Follow me here. Now we get into Miami-Dade. This is the land that really skews our average price numbers because there's been so many luxury sales over the last couple of years since COVID that the numbers have gotten a little bit skewed. And I even said that, keep in mind, for those of you that have been watching my updates all along, I even said to you all 6 months, a year ago, year and a half, I said, don't think that the average house that was on for 600 is suddenly worth 800. The luxury sales are skewing the averages. And that's why it's important that you connect with one of our realtors to make sure you find out specifically what's going on with your home and your market. Now, South Florida, single families down 30%, condos down 26%, call it the same. Average price down 8.8%, but the average price of a condo up 16. Think about that one. Why? I know why. Single families got so busy, people started jumping into condos that drove the price up. Okay, and there was less luxury sales. I've said that 7 times. So take a look at the data. Homes listed down. Again, you can't have prices fall out in any dramatic fashion if there's not enough being listed, and that's what's going on there. The inventory is starved. And I think it might be starved at least another 6 months. I wouldn't be shocked if it was 12 months. We are studying the early 1980s, and we're seeing that we're in a similar situation where prices didn't go down a heck of a lot, but sales went down for a couple of years. And that's what I'm going to talk to you more about in a minute. Now we look at Palm Beach County. Single family sales down 19%, condos down 32%. Notice how these numbers are a bit wacky, but by and large, sales are down. Average price of condos up 11%, average price of single families up 8%. Making sense? I hope so. And then we just get into some of the highlights and some of the things that I just showed you on the other pages. So we're going to take these links and we're going to put it into the comments section here, both on YouTube and on Facebook, because I know you're either watching on our main Facebook page or our Fort Lauderdale Lamacchia Realty Facebook page. We're going to put those links there for you. Now what I'd like to do is recap a few things since I've shown you the data, and you have more time to review it on your own. There's a couple of reasons that condos were bound to slow down anyway in South Florida, as were single families. And it goes beyond interest rates. And this is why I think Florida will get hit a little harder than the northern states, but not as hard as it normally would historically, because there's so many people wanting to move to Florida. Just to give you an anecdotal piece of information. In the month of August, more folks went to the Registry of Motor Vehicles in Florida to get a Florida driver's license, okay, that were previously licensed in California than in any other single month in history. Let me say that again more quickly. Month of August, more people went to the registries of motor vehicles in Florida to get their licenses in Florida that came from California than any other month in history. That is a perfect example of the incredible amount of migration that is going on from all over our country into Florida. And that, folks, is why I don't see some major real estate correction happening with pricing. With sales, yes, sales are going to be slower. With pricing, I expect it to, some of the froth, some of the excess to come down a little. I think we're already seeing that. But folks, prices went up 60, 70%. If they come back 10%, who cares? Doesn't matter. 5 years from now, they're going to be up substantially from where they are now. I hope that makes sense. So the couple other things that I was going to mention, condominium rules. Ever since what happened in Surfside, which, I mean, God rest all those souls, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, their regulator, the FHFA, came out and said, we're going to be more strict with condo reserves. We're going to put guidelines in place, the things that say they have to get fixed, or we're not writing financing on those condos. And they gave a period of time. They were a little tough about it. We were in, I'll tell you, I personally was in conversations with them because of my work with the National Association of Realtors, and our national association was all over it. But even with that, they were tough about the guidelines. And they said, if things are broken at condominium complexes, we want them fixed. That's not unreasonable. We want them fixed, or we're not lending to borrowers that are buying in those complexes. That's a perfectly fair request. So that was one thing that happened back in January. Another thing that happened by the time we got to February is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac also tightened up with respect to second home purchases. And they essentially said interest rates on second homes are going to be roughly a point higher. And they were doing that so that they have extra money to protect against losses, et cetera. Those two things do hit states like Florida more. Florida has thousands upon thousands upon thousands of condominiums and towers on the coasts up and down both sides of Florida, okay? They also have a tremendous amount of second home buyers. Think about it, folks. Florida made out like a bandit when COVID hit because so many people moved down there. And give credit where it's due, Florida did a very good job being inviting and being reasonable about how to deal with COVID. And many other states did not, and that's what attracted many people. Lenders come out with these stricter guidelines. That was bound to slow things down a bit anyway. Then you put on top of that, we get to the month of May, rates start going up fast. They went up over a point from the end of May to early June. That was bound to slow things down, and that's why that has happened, okay? So if you are a buyer, here's my closing thoughts to buyers and sellers. If you're a buyer, don't be unreasonable. Don't overplay your hand. Don't think this is going to be 2008, okay? Values are not going to collapse like they did then. Are we seeing an adjustment? Yes. Are we seeing things softening a little bit? Yes. But don't make a mistake and miss a good opportunity, okay? When you buy a property, if you're buying at a 7% interest rate and you don't like it, you can refinance it in a year or 2 or 3 when rates come back down. They're not going to stay up forever, but I do think they're going up more between now and spring. You can do a 2-1 buy down program where you can ask a seller for a closing cost credit. You can take that a part of that closing cost credit or seller concession, put it against your mortgage to get that rate down in the first year and in the second year. You can buy the rate down 2 points. They're even coming out with a 3-1 program that we're starting to see some buyers use. We're very familiar with these programs. Our realtors are very familiar, but you need to get in touch with them so that they can help you do that. Because if that mortgage is a little tight for you in the first couple of years, if you get that rate down for a couple of years, you will likely be able to refinance it by the time you get to the end of that. And not to mention, by that time, you'll be more easily able to afford it. If you can't, and if one of our realtors thinks you can't, we will not encourage you to buy it. We are not here to just sell people homes. We want to make sure that buyers are getting into situations that are good for them, okay? So please keep those things in mind when you are buying. We are also in the process, I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit here, of building up lists of properties, homeowners with mortgages that are assumable. Mortgages that a buyer could perhaps assume that are 2.5, 2.8, 3%, 3.2% mortgages. So if you're looking to buy, you need to get in touch with us. You need to get in touch with our realtors so that they can get you into these properties. Now, sellers, final thoughts for you. Don't overplay your hand. It's not 2021 anymore. It's not even January or February of 2022. Rates are not at 3%, 4% anymore. They are at 7%. When you list your property, be reasonable. Don't overplay it. Don't go too high on your price or you will live to regret it, okay? Listen to your realtor. Price right, it will sell. We're still seeing multiple offers. Our realtors at Lamacchia Realty in South Florida are still dealing with multiple offer situations when they represent buyers and sellers, especially our sellers, because of our marketing power. But be mindful of these things and don't overplay your hand. That's all, folks. That concludes my South Florida real estate market update. For more information, get in touch with us, get in touch with our realtors. We're here to help you. Thank you.